and communication technology tools to collect evidence. You need to analyze that evidence following strict documentation procedure to triage the evidence correctly, passing it along the appropriate chain of custody. This field saw massive growth and maturity primarily between 1995 and 2005 by the expansion, the massive expansion in the internet, everyone having their own like cell phones and email addresses, also the increase of child pornography cases and the terrorist attacks such as from 9/11. Okay, digital forensics has a wide breadth. It's seen a lot of different areas. First of all, cybercrime investigation. It's become an increasing threat to people, businesses, and governments. You use tools to analyze the network traffic and identify the threat sources. You also use tools to identify rogue processes stemming from possible malware attacks. Incident response, where digital forensics teams will work alongside law enforcement to help identify the cause of an incident and the range of the incident and help to remediate the incident. In court cases, digital forensics can be used to gather evidence that can be used in a legal process. We'll also be talking a lot about the specific types of tools that fall under digital forensics. So network forensics, hardware forensics, file forensics, things like that. So this is our network topology diagram. It's all from the Hyper-V program. The two main servers we work with are the SecNet server and the CyberSec server. The CyberSec server provides us our firewalls, which separate our bunch of machines into behind the firewall in the DMZ. The other machines are primary workspaces and other options for teams to attack us. But the SecNet server also provides our threat sources. So the other teams are attacking us primarily with DDoS attacks and cross-site scripting attacks. And so this shows these are where their VMs sit, but also, for example, this machine is going to DDoS attack us. This machine hosts cross-site scripting. And so we're first going to talk about network forensics, and from the denial of service attack, we're going to using UDP sync attacks and then TCP sync attacks. Memory and file forensics, looking at like rogue processes between using the sysinternal suite and FTK Imager. Image forensics, looking at steganography, and hardware forensics.
All right, so the first dive we're going into in forensics is Wireshark. It is again, like in the last slide, it is focused on network forensics, and it is a packet analyzer. So how we use Wireshark is we kind of experimented with a DDoS attack. Using Slaloris, a DDoS attack was executed on one of the Team B machines or honeypots. Way back, and that was like originally. Then later on, we got the UDP flood, and then we got the TCP SYN attack. Team A was able to successfully attack our honeypot and nearly cripple any ability to use it. Wireshark was running on the honeypot, which allowed us to capture the huge flood of UDP packets on the system. Since Team A ran one of the attacks on a single IP address, it was easy to trace back the attacking machine and run a counterattack. And we used Slaloris to run that counterattack on the attacking machine, which is the Kali machine.191. And that were used to gather more information on the machine, and we'll go ahead and demonstrate that. So this first video is a UDP flood from a single local IP. So this is Wireshark. We're reading the UDP flood from one single local IP. The Team A members in this particular case aren't randomizing their IPs at all. So it's fairly simple for. Let's go ahead and skip that.
Yeah.
No, go back one. Let's show the demonstration of the randomized attack, because there's a little bit more investigation going on, more involvement. So this is an attack coming from random IP addresses. It is coming from one machine. We figured that out in this video. But if you notice, the source IPs are all different. But I noticed that all the timings are very similar. So I can figure out that it's all coming from one machine using the packet analyzer on the bottom left. Then I figured out that all of the machines are on the same MAC address. So even though I couldn't see the IPs because they're completely spoofed in the packet, I figured it out. You can just look at their MAC address. And later in the video, I go into Kali and I run an ARP scan to look over the network and see the MAC address and how it correlates to an IP address. And then from there, I find that IP address, and then we can do that Slaloris attack that I just did in the last video, but unfortunately you guys weren't able to see that. So this takes a couple seconds, but we find it. It's a pretty large network. And there we go. That's .191. That's one of Team A's machines. And that's the Kali machine that's been on us the whole time. And go ahead and move on. And security onion. This is a little bit more involved and it has a much broader capability than Wireshark does. It's a Linux-based distribution that provides tools to monitor networks. It can monitor traffic in real time, almost like Wireshark, but throughout your whole entire network. This OS also provides alerts on malicious activity such as DOS attacks. And in our case, security onion was used to identify a TCP SYN flood. Squill, or however you pronounce it, was used to capture the network traffic, and then Squirt was used to provide a further outlook on the overall effect of the network and help me investigate if it's coming from one single machine and how often packets are coming in. Go ahead and move on. And then this will be a rather quick video. So this is Squill. It looks a lot like Wireshark, right? But this is monitoring the whole entire network. So I can see that there is a TCP SYN flood coming from X machine. You can see the TCP packet information there, and then that is Squirt, and you kind of get a little bit more information on the packets. It gives you like an overall summary, and then this, unfortunately, we weren't able to find the MAC addresses on using Squill or Squirt, but if you have a packet capture running on the machine that's getting attacked, MAC address, there you go. And go ahead and move on.
Okay, so this is the sysinternal suite. These are tools that Microsoft provides that can allow you to see different processes going on in your computer. So I'm going to be showing off Procmon, which is short for the process monitor, and then TCP view, which gives you a port analysis. And for time, I'm going to sort of click through this really quickly. So this is, hang on. So this is process monitor. I'm scrolling through. You can see there's, thousands of events happening, and this is just everything that's going on behind the computer. So you could use this to identify anything strange that's going on if you feel like there's something wrong with the computer. And then over here is TCP view, which shows the what process is running and then what port it's connected to over here. So I'm scrolling through the remote port that it's connected from and then the local port that it's connected to on your machine. And then you could, if you were to have something happen like a Trojan horse, you could scroll through and look to try to see find something that's going on strange. I'm scrolling through trying to find it. Yeah, here. So this is, I'm just showing off Honeybot right now as an example, and then clicking over to what TCP view will show. So back to TCP view, you see all the ports that it's connected to, because the Honeybot it scans the ports, the connections to your machine, and you can go into the file tree, examine the file, and remediate it. And again, this was a quicker video, but for time. So, and then FTK Imager, this was Jacob's slides. FTK Imager is a data preview and imaging software. It creates images of devices to be analyzed, and it's often used by data analysts in criminal investigations to retrieve data off a broken phone or laptop. FTK Imager opens documents in a read-only format, first of all, so that you can't accidentally change the information. It keeps the integrity, but also just so you don't accidentally get attacked on your own. FTK Imager creates a clone and image of the device in order to preserve evidence for investigators, and it will verify the integrity of the file against the original copy.
It's for phones or some kind of storage device. What we can do is we have an image file that we already cloned from the user's device, and now we can inspect it. So it does open it in a read-only file. It does not open it in a write file. So for example, if we want to add changes, it opens it up here, but we can't write to it. It's just read only. And then if we want to add it up to evidence, we hit new. And then here's our evidence tree of what's going on in this area. And we can add comments later. So this is another file that says, okay, in a court hearing, we want to look at something like this. Then we can go through and find different files. So this is an executable, but obviously we can't open it.
For time, I'm going to pause it there, but you can sort of see using FTK, you've got the evidence tree, you can analyze the full drive, and then analyzing the files within, as well as seeing like the hex codes and everything like that. This is another picture. He also looked at Redline, which is an endpoint security tool for inspecting memory of malicious activity. It can be used to develop a threat assessment profile. And upon extraction of memory from FTK Imager, it contained a 2 gigabytes of RAM file to interpret based on a DDoS attack. but he wasn't able to really get it to work. It was crashing a lot on his VM. He said he tried it like 4 times. It crashed every time. It was just such a load on the VM that he wasn't able to get it to work. But here's a screenshot of it from his VM.
Yeah, so I did steganography and I
You can-
used
if you
OpenStego to hide files inside of a PNG file.
You can come click through it if you want.
Yeah, that'll work. It's like a 5-minute long video. But yeah, so I used OpenStego to hide the files, and this is me and the Ubuntu machine just opening it up. OpenStego doesn't allow you to scan for them or search different files. So doing so, I had to use another application called a Parasolve, which is actually just a website, but it's like a conglomeration of a bunch of different tools, such as Binwalk, ExifTool, ZStag, and you can also look at metadata as well as strings inside those images. And it was just a lot easier than going into the console. So the clean dog is just the normal picture I downloaded from Google. And then the Stego dog is the one that has a hidden message in it. The hidden message is a zip file with a text document inside of it. So looking at the metadata, it's about 606 kilobytes. This is important because if there's a message inside of it, it's going to change the actual size of the file unless someone does something really fancy, like changing the least significant bits of a image file. And that gets pretty advanced. It's also possible to find hidden messages inside the actual image itself. And using these filters, you can sometimes see the text in that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see that in this process. But you can also see here that it says in this code right here in ZStag, there's U repeated 77 times. This is also important because this also changed when you look at the image with a hidden message inside of it. And we're going to look at a few more things. Sorry, the VM was really laggy when I wanted to record it on my computer, so I have to go through it very slowly, unfortunately. But this is ExifTool. ExifTool can sometimes show things. It didn't really show much in my case, but it can sometimes show if there's a hidden zip or a text file inside of it. And so can Binwalk, but didn't work for me either. Let's do this a little bit. These strings are very important because these also changed for me. This is still the clean picture, so important to look at. And then this is the one with a hidden message inside of it. The image is still exactly the same, but as you can see, the size of the file is now 816 kilobytes. So this is our first clue that something's wrong with this picture. If you have the original picture and this one, then you can know it's the exact picture. Why is it a bigger size now? Which is really strange. Like I said, sometimes you can find the message inside of these filters. I could not this time. Keep going. This ZStag, as you can see, it doesn't say that U is repeated multiple times because now the text has changed. So this is also another sign that something's different about this photo. And then these are the strings that were in this picture, and they're actually different as well. I took a picture with my phone to show the first one just so I could remind myself exactly what it was. I can't do that right here because my phone's too small of a screen to show you guys, but they did change, and that was also another sign that something's different about this photo, despite it being exactly the same. So at this point, I'm going to show you how to extract the photo using OpenSteg. Now, this only works with PNGs. If you want to extract and hide data in JPEGs or a different image file, you got to use a different software, but there's so many of them out there, so it's not too difficult to do. And going back to security, I output the hidden zip file right there. And here's the hidden message saying that we're hacked. But, yeah.
A lot of times the digital forensics teams and incident response teams will utilize hardware devices. I'm going to skip the video for time, but basically the way it works, I'll click a little bit through it. Basically the way it works is it's a very basic input output system. So on this side, you would plug in the suspect drive, you would connect it to the SATA cables, and then plug in an empty drive over here that you would then create the image of, and then analyze that drive. So again, you're not messing it up. You're not going to change anything. It can still be used in court. And it also has functions to create a hash of that, which again, specifically for court cases, so that it can be used in a legal setting. And the reasons you would use a hardware device are because they're very portable. You can use them directly in the field. They help to ensure the chain of custody is maintained, and they have a range of interfaces such as SATA, USB, and PCLE. It also enables enables examiners to connect and acquire data from different types of devices, and like I said, has simultaneous hashing function to ensure the integrity of the evidence, uses a combination of MD5, SHA-1, or SHA-256, and allows the evidence to be used in legal. It also provides advanced analysis capabilities, right? So once you have that connection, once you have the extra drive, you can connect it to docs and such to analyze with FTK like we saw earlier.
For our lessons learned, we learned a ton of different things. Digital forensics is increasingly more important. There are incredibly large amount of different tools that you can use for digital forensics on a variety of applications such as network, file sharing, image analysis, all those different things. And it's ever evolving, just as everything else in cybersecurity. Criminals are finding more and more different ways and more efficient ways to commit their crimes. And therefore, digital forensics and professionals have to find new ways around them. Wireshark is an extremely powerful tool, and there's no wonder why it's so popular, because analyzing network traffic and identifying those attacks and where they come from is incredibly important. FTK's analysis possibilities within the duplicator are also extremely effective and also very important, especially for physical access to different files.
We're Team A. Today we're going to be going over denial of service attacks and what we use denial of service attacks for on the SecNet environment. So starting off, what is a denial of service attack? The denial of service attack basically aims to prevent legitimate users from accessing a resource. It mostly attacks the availability of the systems. So it's just trying to make sure that no one can access the data on those systems. It's most commonly done in a distributed form. So instead of one machine attacking one machine. Today, computers are much more complicated. They have much more resources available to them. So you need a large, vast amount of computers attacking that one system to have a valid, efficient attack. But it can be done in many different techniques. So some forms being, just DOS attack, where you have, a good script that can shut down the system. So what is the significance of this? Denial of attacks, DDoS attacks, cost an average of $22,000 for every minute downtime caused. Obviously, this figure can vary a lot, for FSU, but the number could possibly be higher. But for a small company, it'd be much smaller. So it's kind of the average between those two, but a lot of money. And it can be used as smoke screen for their attack. So if your company is getting attacked, everything's down, everyone's freaking out, no one can work. A hacker could try to sneak another attack throughout that while you're freaking out, trying to maintain the availability of your systems. And mitigation for denial of service attack all starts at infrastructure. Having firewalls in place to detect these attacks, having enough resources on the systems, making sure stuff to re-put throughout your network. Here's our network topology. It kind of got messed up when we converted to PowerPoint format, but it's basically just our bunch of machines, which is our primary target for other teams. So we have that set into its own VMC to isolate it from the rest of the network. We have the CAN machines next to it on the same machine, so we can analyze and do forensics on our bunch of machines. We have our CAL machines that we're using for attacks of the other team. We have that separated completely. That's where we launch all our service attacks into our teams, and our HUD machines to throw them off. And these are very efficient. I remember doing Nmap on the network, and there's so many HUD machines from everyone, all active, RP open, and it's very confusing. And here's other teams coming in, and here's FSU, buying the whole network. And our main service we're protecting is Apache through a web server. These are the type of denial of service attacks we will overview. We're going to do Solaris, Solaris, TCP SYN attack, UDP attack, and MTP application. So Solaris, this is the main attack I focused on. It mostly targets web servers, and due to this, it does this through sending open connections to open TCP connections to a web server, and it makes sure they're open. This is detrimental to web servers because on Apache 2, the amount of concurrent connections you have is around 256. And when Solaris sends these connections, it makes sure to keep them alive by sending them keep alive headers, so it never actually shuts down. So one machine, you can open thousands of active connections to a web server. And with the default settings of most web server providers, this will not allow any new user to come in because it has reached that threshold. It aims to exhaust the server resources, the resources of Apache having a limit. And also, if you have so many source connections of one, let's say Apache service didn't have a limit, you have so many connections coming in. At some point, the RAM or CPU would be exhausted, and then the server would crash, causing more downtime, or it'd just be impossible to reconnect. And this bypasses traditional security measures for denial of service attacks, because most DDoS attacks come in as we're going to flood the server with packets until there's not enough, network bandwidth to support real connections. This one kind of sneaks in and does open connections, which costs a lot less resources for attacker to use. Whereas like all these packets coming in, you need a large infrastructure of machines to attack with, or a botnet. Whereas here, you can do this on a laptop anywhere. So here is me doing reconnaissance on the other teams. To start off, I scanned the IP range 72.1 or 1 to 100. I scanned for HTTP port 480 for web servers, because that's what this attack mostly focuses on. And when I did this, I found 25 hosts, 7 of which had 480 open. Here's just a scan. Next one. And here is me actually launching an attack on one of the machines. Basically what this attack does is I had a script. The script. Oh, I think.
Okay. Do you have another source
I
on
have
OneDrive?
not on OneDrive. We use Canva to make this, so we can launch Canva, but that may take a few minutes.
Okay. Please.
You want to see that? Okay.
Oh, your personal.
Yeah.
Oh, this seems to catch that.
Sorry, share screen, can I share this one?
That's good.
It's not correct yet. I'll present while doing this. All right. So this video is me launching the attack. I used a Python script I found on GitHub of Solaris. I ran scripts. I specified I want port 80 to be attacked. I used a random user agent, so every single Solaris connection be from a different user agent, making it much more difficult for the firewall to pick up on a static attack that was saying user attacking.
Oh, you were doing it?
Yeah, just hit %.
It's not showing it on the other one.
No.
It's not showing the screen.
So for this attack, I started with 1,000 sockets to try to open 1,000 connections on the web server. Immediately, it limited itself to 265, which I believe is the default for Apache, because this makes sense. And all it does is it keeps sending people live headers to make sure that those connections are active and staying open, exhausting the server resources. And not letting people. So how do you defend against this? The first instinct most people think about is just increase the class on a web server. This would make it not possible for attack 256 to happen. But this is not a feasible solution, because you can't just keep adding more numbers to attackers keep adding more zeros, which is much easier for the attacker to do. A really good way is to limit the amount of connections a single IP address can make. This also can help limit this attack, because instead of having one IP attack, you can just block that IP from having multiple connections. But again, you use a proxy list to get around this. You can set a minimum transfer speed or connection is allowed. This Solaris is very efficient, sends just simple packets. And web application firewall is best to defend against this. Defense, I checked for module and Apache. Apache now comes with its own defense against Solaris and request timeout scripts. This limits how long a connection stay open, which is very good. And I ran the script to make sure it was active, and was. And here's me setting a firewall rule on pfSense. I named it Solaris. It was a limiter, so it limits the amount of connections to be active. I was the source IP address to be limited, and I limited 1 megabyte per second for bandwidth.
So I focus on the GCP send flow attack. So this is a typical type of cross attack, and generally it exploits the the TCP handshake, which normally goes like this. The client sends the send packet to the server responds back with the same packet, and then packet, and then the client sends it back to the server, and that's how connection is made. But in what attack of this attack, the client never responds back to the server, so the server keeps the connection open. And that's how all the resources are already exhausted from the client server. Yeah. Next. So for this server attack, I use H3. It's a command line interface tool, and this helped me launch an attack on Team B's honeypot. So there's like the command that would they would need an enter, so you could set the how many packets you want, the data size, the width of the TCP window, which port, if you want to flood the attack and send as many packets as possibly can, and random source so you can spoof your IP address so they don't know who's sending the attack.
So is that Team B's Apache server? 242.
No, this was just an example of the example, but no. On the video it shows the Team B's.
Okay.
So this one's that's actually Team B's. Right now I'm just trying to filter out all the other packets. I just want to see the port 80 ones. So you can see it's still capturing the packet, but not none from the port 80. And right now I'm on my Kali machine trying to answer the command.
You move that quickly.
Okay, and then you can see all the packets come flooding in. Right now it's at 89,000 packets. And it just keeps on going. You could skip it. And this is the type of defense you can implement to protect yourself from cyber attack. So on Firewall, you can block IP addresses. You can activate safe cookies and random early drop to avoid these type of attacks. So you can set the alarm rate active and maximum. That's just the community changes. Just skip.
So now mine was focused on UDP flood. It's a top of level service port. In which the attacker roam from the port and the target goes to add packets and then UDP parameters. Here we can see we can either use spoof packets, or in some cases we can use a local IP. Now, if we go to the next one. So here is a basic code that I was using. This one lets you use a local IP. In this case, I use the same program as Jesus. I use HTTP3. And this one I create a UDP. -2 tells the program to run as UDP. By default, we run as TCP. And the flood means that even if the program doesn't respond, it will still be sending packets. Next one. So in this case, I was doing similar to Jesus. I use Wireshark. This is from the victim's point of view. This is BO2. The IP address that attack was ending with 72.32. You can see when there's no attack, CPU is working fine. But once you send it through, the CPU usage increases, as well as the Ethernet. Can you fast forward to like half of it? Then in this case, you can also see Ethernet going 50 minutes per second. That means it's receiving information and there's no way to deny it. It's just going to take it because the firewall is not set up. Now, you go next. Now, in this case, we try to do the UDP defense, and try to do the same thing as a SUSE, try to set up a rule, try to set up a new network. We tried working with Team B for 2 days trying to get the locks, but we couldn't get it to work. The reason why is that the GUI, or the graphical user interface, will not show you the logs. Follow up by default hides the top of logs. It marks them as not important. So you need to go in the main source and input a code to get the logs. That's why we couldn't get it. I worked with Joseph, with Jacob. We couldn't make it to work. I worked with Jesus. We couldn't get the logs. But this is the best way to stop the UDP attack. Because you can set the rules, try to set up a limiter and the amount of frequency you want the attack. If it's above this, of course, it's not going to let it go through. And if it's spoofing, it's still going to block it. This one.
I did the NTP amplification attack. NTP standing for Network Time Protocol, it's a DDoS attack. It's using NTP services and amplified amount of traffic to a target, which overwhelms the target due to a huge amount of the user data grant protocol. And it makes the network slow and unresponsive. Okay, in order to do this, you need to start your NTP. And you need to show the status so that you can see that it's on or it's working or it's moving. And then you connect to the IP of ones of which you want to attack. In order to conduct an attack directly, I use an NTP tool called NTP Dozer, and I got it from GitHub. And what it did is, from there, once I launched it, I went on NTPQ, which is my replacement for Wireshark, to see the process, to see what was happening to the IP address I was attacking. And then from here, you can see, well, the video will show later on, I'll show you, but this is the main takeaway is to see how it changed from the offset and frequency of the NTP changed from this to that. And here's a video of what I did. Here, I just launched the attack right here on the IP, which is BO1. This is showing you the instruction before I launch the attack on the actual IP address. So I need to input the IP address, input the thread, and how long I want the attack to be. Now it goes through. This one is going to be an incomplete attack because it failed. So I'm going to do it again. And now you see it's a little bit slower, but it's supposed to last 30 seconds. And then you wait 30 seconds before it tells you that it processed on time. And if you want to, while this is going, you can look right here. I duplicated the status of the NTP to see how it was before I even did anything, just to see if I really did make a get into the NTP or their NTP. And then while it goes, okay, now it said time's up. Now I do the status again. And from the status now I can see the offset and the frequency change based on the 30 seconds of me doing that NTP application. Next, because I'm just highlighting it. Okay, application defense. In order to do this, I had to configure their NTP configuration file first. Instead, in order for me to get access, because usually with NTP, you need access or you need to be requested to go into someone's NTP in order to change it. So right here, anything that says restrictions isn't supposed to be hashtag, because hashtag is just a way of turning it off, restriction on. So I will turn all the restrictions off by deleting the hashtag, which is just letting their authentication allow not allowing authentication to my NTP file. In conclusion and lesson learned, there are multiple DDoS attacks types and use different methods to destroy, slow down, and corrupt the network. It's important to protect your systems from threat, especially those that are hard to detect.
Excellent. I'm very impressed about teammates' work, especially Brian. With all difficulties, and you are able to make it. That's amazing. Questions for teammate?
We'll just start.
Cindy.
Okay, so this is our final presentation. We're going to be talking about cross-site scripting today. So getting started, our project significance. Cross-site scripting is actually one of the most common, and it's a very dangerous attack. One of the things we want to showcase today is how an attacker can use cross-site scripting to steal assets. Another thing, it also teaches users how to defend themselves. Brings awareness of the difficult to defend vulnerability of cross-site scripting, and also it's good practice for wannabe pen testers. As you can see here, here's a nice little diagram of cross-site scripting. First, the hacker's going to inject malicious code into the website. The victim's going to visit the website, which actually triggers the malicious script. And then the victim's browser executes the malicious script and forwards information to the hacker. So getting started with our network topology diagram, as you can see here on the outside, we have the other two teams and then our cloud environment here. And then we had a honeypot and Ubuntu on our outside of the network so that we could do attacks and things on that. And also we have the Kane forensics and security onion and our Kali Linux as well. So we could do vulnerability testing and attacks. And then our assets behind the firewalls, as you can see here, we have three, 2 Palo Alto and 1 pfSense. We have our Apache Ubuntu on our TMZ and our honeypots on the internal. And we're trying to protect our Apache servers on our Ubuntu networks. So getting into the first category of cross-site scripting, it's called DOM-based. So basically it's a type of cross-site scripting where the attack payload is executed as a result of modifying the document object model in the victim's browser. So the page doesn't actually change, but the attacker can change the client-side code to execute differently. So I guess the main difference between DOM-based, reflective, and stored is that DOM is strictly client-side compared to server-side distinction of reflective and stored. And we have a little diagram there. Okay, so here we're going to showcase DOM-based. As you can see here, I have a little form validation to where I enter a username and password. And basically, I'm going to inspect element and showcase how you can steal cookies. An attacker can steal cookies by using JavaScript code to insert into the code of the web page.
Okay, so here what we did for stored and reflective, we had to download a vulnerable website because there was nothing out there really for us to try on. So I downloaded the damn vulnerable website application here, and you'll see the way that I downloaded it. So I pretty much just first updated everything, making sure that my Ubuntu was set before I uploaded the DVWA. And then once you go past all of this, this is when I started. I guess we'll just watch the video of it uploading. So pretty much this website, it's just for us to be able to actually do a cross-site scripting attack, since there's nowhere else that we could actually do it because we're not experienced like that. So the whole website, we just installed it onto here. We had to get some packages that we got from GitHub, and we installed it onto our Ubuntu, and we did it on 2 different machines. And we also tried it on our Kali, and it did work as well. And this is just pretty much a way to practice different types of cross-site scripting, whether a low, medium, high, or impossible. And you just see the different types that you'll see later on.
So reflective cross-site scripting attacks involve vulnerable websites accepting malicious data sent to the target's own web browser, usually in the form of an email. The reason this type of script attack is unique compared to DOM is because it depends on the immediate execution. So you can go to the next slide. So for example, on 1, 2, and 5, it's essentially how it is. So the attacker sends the link. So, check your bank account. Suspicious activity has occurred. The user clicks the link, and then bam, the attacker has full access to your account. So that's essentially how it works. On the next slide, we have a combined video of the DVMWA, which is low and medium difficulty. And you can go ahead and play it.
It's fine.
What was it? Yeah, it is. You pause it.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So for the low one, our unique stream is present in the page source. As you see here, that's how we know that the website is vulnerable. I just kind of point that out just so you know. And then we can fast forward just a little bit. Honestly, the second part of the video is literally the exact same thing. The only difference in the second one for the medium is the parameters for the input of the hacker. In the script line of code has to be capitalized because the security parameters are just like a little bit more difficult. So that's why compared to the low and the medium, it's a little bit different. And that's the reason why.
So I'm going to talk about the high vulnerability. This is kind of the most advanced version you can do besides impossible. So we're first going to go over here. I'm going to put my name in to the text box here. We're going to hit submit. And then from here, we're going to go to the server side to basically see where my name was put in here. So we can see it there. And we're going to go back, and that's when I'm going to start putting in the script into the text box. And then after the script is completed, we're going to basically get no notification that it's been hacked. This has been denied basically. So what I had to do is go in on the back end and basically see what was preventing that from happening, like why it wasn't executing. So what I found out was that the script header, like the actual header of it, was being denied from them. So you can, if you can speed it up, you can as well.
I don't
Just like
think
15
it's
seconds.
working to speed it up on.
Yeah, you're good. But basically found out that if I used a different header, I used an image header that you're going to see in a second. I was able to successfully exploit the application.
Switch it back to this one.
Why? This one is working. Good. Is it running from here? Okay. Run it from here.
Yes. Yeah, basically what I was saying is because I was putting the script into the text box, it wasn't letting it through. But once I changed to image, it like hacked it because it wasn't preventing the like IMG header from coming into there.
So this one's stored cross-site scripting, so it's pretty much just like the rest. So the attacker sends a payload first to the web application. So normally it's blogs, message boards, social networks, video sharing apps, because once you go on that site, you don't actually have to view what the attacker left and for it to actually get your information. So this is one that was left on a forum. You just have to leave a comment on there with the script attack at the bottom. So let's say this one has like a malicious website that it'll go to, and it'll automatically go there for you. And then on here, so this is pretty much the same thing. So the attacker goes ahead and sends a website with a malicious script, whether depending they want to leave a comment, leave a different message board. And then once the user goes on the actual website, they get the access to their session. And then on here, you'll see the video. If this one wants to work.
Yep. Give me a second.
So this is the low security. So it's pretty easy. This one you can just put on test and you'll see how nothing happens once you sign the guest book. But once you actually put the script attack of saying to alert that you've been hacked, you'll actually see it popped up on there. Just like that. And then even if you refresh, it'll just keep on saying that you're hacked and it'll keep taking your information on there. Then for the medium security, it was almost the same, but the only difference was you just need that you can't do the all lowercase of the regular script attack because you'll see that it doesn't work. So you'll have to do a different type of input. So one way is putting the script, saying, putting it capitalized or doing a different type of font for it so that it actually does go through.
Just go to the next one.
No, it'll go. You'll see. And then after I actually put in the uppercase, once I did the signed guest book, it did keep saying it. And then for the high security, none of those actually work for this one. So you have to do a different type of attack on it. So I first checked to see if you can change the different type of header. And I was able to change it. So you'll see here how the hack actually became the header one, which is the big header. So then I decided to input an image source. For it to actually be hacked, and then you'll see once it did work, it'll actually show it, but it won't show it on the message board.
Okay, so going back to the little form we had. So I'm gonna get into the code here of the website that we set up on my local machine. As you can see here, we have a get method and it's insecure, so we're gonna change it to a post so that the server can only see the code that's being processed. As you can see here, you have the username and password that was actually in the UR bar. And once you change it to post, you can't see it anymore. So that is a defensive solution for cross-site scripting. As you can see, you cannot insert a script into the PHP code. You can go.
So this one is basically just going to bring you through Metasploit. Yeah. And then so right here, I'm basically trying to use the exploit and getting the payload to get configured. And basically what we're going to try and do in this is reach out to a website and try and download a HTA, which is an HTML attachment. So right here, I'm setting the port and then setting the listening port to 123 45. This is basically showing you what IP address and where we're going to be reaching out and where it's going to be listening to. So here it wanted me to reach out to the website and download the executable or download the HTML attachment. And then when we come back here, I basically started to run the exploit. And basically it gave me the URL to use and what executable I was going to get to download. And it just wanted you to either cancel, save, or run it. You could do anything to basically start the active session for the executable. And then for our lessons learned slide, basically we learned how to visualize and mitigate cross-site scripting threats, the importance of input validation, the various styles of them, the dangers of client-side scripting and proactive security testing. And then for the conclusion, cross-site scripting is allowed for attackers to have their malicious code executed with many users. Attackers enter their malicious code with a vulnerability within the network, and ethical hackers should view what vulnerabilities there are to prevent any attacker from inputting malicious codes.
Hey, great job.